Marcus Raines had always been drawn to the edge of the unknown. The rugged canyons of Ares 7, a distant planet settled by humans only a decade ago, were no exception. Red dust swirled in the air like fine smoke, and the jagged cliffs stretched for miles under the twin suns. Despite the harsh conditions, humans had carved out small colonies here, learning to survive alongside alien creatures and plants. Marcus, a young explorer and survival expert, thrived in this environment. It was late afternoon when Marcus noticed the storm approaching. The sky, normally a pale pink under the twin suns, darkened with swirling brown clouds. Alien winds carried a sharp, metallic scent, an indication of the violent sandstorms that could appear without warning on Ares 7. He tightened his cloak and checked his gear. A plasma cutter for emergencies, a portable shield generator, and a supply pack. Every expedition was dangerous, but Marcus had learned that caution and quick thinking often meant the difference between life and death. As he moved along a narrow ridge, he heard a sharp cry over the howl of the wind. Marcus froze. The sound was human, but faint, urgent, and desperate. He strained his eyes, scanning the cliffs. There, struggling against the whipping sands, were two young girls. They wore traditional Apache garments, woven with vibrant colors that stood out against the red rock. Their small figures were battered by the wind, and one of them clutched the other as if protecting her from the storm. "Hold on!" Marcus shouted, though the wind carried his voice away. Without hesitation, he activated his shield generator, which created a dome of stable air around him. The blast of technology cut through the storm like a bubble in chaos. He sprinted toward the girls, slipping on loose gravel and jagged stones, his heart pounding. The younger girl, no more than 10, tripped over a rock. Marcus skidded forward, catching her under his arm before she fell off the edge of the ridge. The older girl, maybe 14, reached out desperately. "Hurry!" she shouted over the roar. Marcus extended his hand, the storm lashing at his face, and grabbed her wrist. Using every ounce of strength, he pulled her into the protective dome. Once inside, the girls huddled close, shivering from the cold alien wind. Their wide, fearful eyes stared at Marcus, and he felt a pang of responsibility. "It's okay," he said, keeping his voice steady. "You're safe now. I won't let anything happen to you." The storm raged around them, but the shield kept them relatively calm. Marcus knew he couldn't wait for the wind to die down. It could trap them here for hours. He scanned the terrain. There was a narrow path winding down the canyon walls, jagged but navigable. "I need to get you down," he said. "Follow me. And don't let go." The older girl nodded, gripping his arm tightly. The younger clung to her sister. Step by step, Marcus led them down the steep path, his boots crunching against the alien sand and stone. At one point, a loose rock tumbled under his foot. He caught himself, heart racing, and tightened his grip on the girls. Every sense was alert, every movement deliberate. One mistake could send them tumbling into the canyon below. Halfway down, the storm intensified. Sand whipped at their faces, forcing Marcus to use his shield more actively. Sparks danced across its surface as it absorbed the impact of debris. "Almost there," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. The girls' fear was palpable, but they trusted him, and that trust fueled his determination. Suddenly, a deep, rumbling growl echoed from the cliffs above. Marcus froze. Alien predators, large, quadrupedal creatures with armored hides and glinting eyes, had been driven from their usual hunting grounds by the storm. They now prowled dangerously close, drawn by movement. Marcus quickly assessed the situation. He could fight them, but the girls were too small and vulnerable. He needed to outsmart the predators. He pointed to a narrow crevice beside the path. "This way," he whispered. He led them into the small opening, crouching low. The predators sniffed the air, their claws scraping against the rocks. Marcus held his breath, praying the creatures wouldn't follow. After tense moments, the predators lost interest and moved on, and Marcus let out a quiet sigh of relief. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached a flatter section of the canyon. The storm's wind was still strong but manageable. Marcus found a small alcove where they could rest, shields still active around them. The girls sank to the ground, exhausted but alive. Marcus knelt beside them. "You did great," he said gently. "I know it was scary, but you're safe now." The older girl's eyes shimmered with gratitude. "Thank you, mister," she said softly. Her voice carried a note of awe and relief. The younger girl clutched Marcus's hand and nodded silently. Marcus smiled, brushing sand from his cloak. "You're welcome," he replied. "But we need to get back to the settlement before nightfall. There are wild animals and other dangers out here." The girls looked at each other, and then at him, understanding the unspoken promise. They would follow him, no questions asked. For Marcus, this was familiar territory. He had helped humans and even alien settlers before. But something about this moment felt different, more personal. He felt a connection, a responsibility beyond simple survival. As they walked, Marcus couldn't help but notice the courage of the girls. Despite their fear, they had stayed together and trusted him in the worst conditions. He admired that bravery. Humans could survive the harshest conditions, but it was moments like these where morality, courage, and empathy intersected that truly defined them. By the time they reached the small human outpost at the canyon's edge, night was beginning to fall. The twin suns had set, casting long shadows over the red rocks. Colonists rushed to their doors, closing shutters against the storm. Marcus led the girls to safety, explaining briefly what had happened without revealing too much about the storm or predators. They didn't need to be frightened further. Inside the warmth of the outpost, the girls' fear began to fade. Marcus offered them water and blankets. The older girl, still catching her breath, looked at him with wide, sincere eyes. "You saved us," she said. "We don't know how to thank you." Marcus shook his head. "No need for thanks," he replied. "You survived. That's what matters." But he felt a strange warmth in his chest, a quiet pride, a sense of purpose. In a universe full of danger, acts of courage and kindness were rare treasures. As he settled the girls into a small cot, Marcus glanced outside the window at the fading storm. Somewhere in the wild canyons, creatures roamed, and sand shifted unpredictably. But for now, at least, life was safe. For Marcus, this was only the beginning. The girl's presence hinted at something larger, a bond that went beyond simple rescue. He didn't know it yet, but their story was intertwined with his in ways that would challenge him, test him, and ultimately show the strength of human courage and ingenuity. That night, Marcus sat by the outpost's window, looking out at the alien landscape. The storm had passed, leaving a quiet calm over the canyon. He thought about the girls, about the strange courage they showed even in fear. And he thought about the future, the dangerous frontier they lived in, and the humans who refused to be cowed by it. In the quiet of that moment, Marcus made a silent vow. He would protect those who could not protect themselves, no matter the risk. The universe was vast and unpredictable. But human courage, resourcefulness, and compassion could light even the darkest paths. And somewhere deep inside, Marcus knew that the small act of heroism he had shown today was only the first chapter of a story far bigger than himself. The morning sun spilled across the canyon walls, turning the red rocks into shades of gold and crimson. Marcus Raines stirred from a restless sleep, the events of the previous day still vivid in his mind. The storm had passed, leaving a quiet calm over Ares 7. He glanced at the two Apache girls who slept on the cot nearby. Their breathing was steady, and for the first time since the storm, they seemed truly safe. Marcus rose quietly, careful not to wake them. The small outpost smelled of metal and dust, with the faint aroma of cooked rations lingering in the air. He stretched, rubbing the tension from his shoulders. Saving the girls had been dangerous, but he knew the universe had more challenges waiting for him. Still, today was not about danger, it was about trust, respect, and learning from another culture. The older girl, Layla, woke first. She stretched her small frame and rubbed her eyes. Beside her, the younger girl, Ayani, blinked sleepily. "Good morning," Leela whispered, her voice soft but clear. Marcus smiled. "Good morning. Sleep well?" he asked. Leela nodded. "Yes. Thank you." She glanced at Marcus, her dark eyes searching. "We want to thank you properly," Marcus chuckled. "You don't have to. You're safe. That's enough." But Leela shook her head. "No. We must. It is our way. Please come with us." Curious, Marcus followed them outside. The sun was higher now, and the wind had calmed to a gentle breeze. The girls led him to a small garden patch near the outpost, a mixture of alien plants and native herbs. Leela reached down and picked a small, colorful braid of threads and beads from a basket she carried. The design was intricate, and it seemed to pulse faintly with a soft, warm light. "This is for you," Leela said, holding out the braid. "It is our gift, not just for what you did, but for who you are. You saved our lives. That is more than kindness. It is honor." Marcus blinked in surprise. "It's beautiful. But why does it glow?" he asked, holding the braid gently. Ayani stepped closer. "It carries energy," she explained, her small hand hovering over the braid. "The land gives it strength. It protects those who wear it. It is our way of sharing our trust with you." Marcus felt a mixture of awe and humility. He had seen many forms of technology, and even some rare bioenergy experiments in human colonies. But this was different. It was personal, alive in a way that machines could never be. I don't know what to say," Marcus murmured. He looked at the girls, seeing the sincerity and hope in their eyes. "Thank you. Truly." Leela smiled faintly. "No words are enough. But you must wear it when you go outside. It will guide and protect you." Marcus fastened the bracelet around his wrist. The warmth spread instantly through his skin, subtle but comforting. He flexed his fingers, marveling at the delicate energy. "It's incredible," he said. "I will honor it." The girls watched him closely, then began to tidy their belongings, preparing to stay at the outpost for a few more days. Marcus knew that their journey back to the main settlement would be dangerous if they left immediately. The storm had shifted some of the canyon's terrain, and the wildlife would still be roaming. As they walked back inside the outpost, Marcus noticed that the bracelet seemed to respond to his movements. When he held the plasma cutter in his hand, the light pulsed faintly, almost as if acknowledging his readiness. The idea fascinated him. Humans were known for creativity and adaptability. But sometimes the universe reminded him that wisdom often came from observing others. Over the next few days, Marcus spent time with Layla and Ayani, learning about their culture and the traditions they carried from Earth's Apache heritage. He discovered that even on this distant planet, the girls' stories, songs, and customs remained strong. They spoke of courage, respect for nature, and the importance of protecting one another. One afternoon, Marcus accompanied Layla to a small grove near the outpost. She pointed to a series of alien plants with intertwined roots. "These are like our ancestors' teachings," she said softly. "They grow together, support one another. The land teaches us to respect it, to live in balance. You humans, you are brave, but sometimes you rush. You forget to see the land as a friend." Marcus nodded slowly. He had learned to survive on Ares 7 by observing the environment, predicting storms, and navigating the canyon's dangers. But Leela's words carried a deeper meaning. It wasn't just survival, it was connection. The girls' culture emphasized harmony, and that harmony resonated with Marcus's own values. Evening came, and the twin suns sank below the horizon. The sky turned deep purple, stars beginning to appear like scattered gems. Marcus sat with the girls outside the outpost, sharing stories of his travels. He spoke of human colonies on other planets, the dangers they faced, and the courage required to survive. In return, the girls told him of their ancestors, of traditions that had lasted centuries, and of lessons passed from one generation to the next. The bracelet on Marcus's wrist seemed to pulse gently with each story. He wondered if it was a response to emotion, to the bond being formed between them. Whatever the reason, he felt a connection stronger than he had expected. He had saved their lives, yes. But in return, they had offered him something far greater than mere thanks. They had offered trust, knowledge, and respect. Late that night, Marcus reflected on the day. The storm had been terrifying, but it had led him to this moment. The girls' bravery, their wisdom, and their gift had left an impression he could not ignore. He realized that the universe was not just a place of survival, it was a place where courage, kindness, and understanding created bonds that transcended danger. The next morning brought new challenges. Scouts from the outpost reported sightings of alien predators near the canyon edge. Marcus knew that venturing out would be risky, but he also knew he could not leave the girls unprotected. He secured his gear, checked the bracelet's energy, and prepared to move. Before leaving, Leela handed him a small pouch. "Inside are seeds from our plants," she explained. "They carry the spirit of the land. Plant them wherever you go. They will remind you of trust, courage, and balance." Marcus accepted the pouch with gratitude. "I promise to honor them," he said. "Your trust means more than you know." As they stepped into the canyon, the sun casting long shadows before them, Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. The storm, the rescue, and now, the gift had changed something inside him. Humans were known for their courage. But it was moments like these, acts of compassion and trust, that truly defined humanity. The trio moved carefully through the rocky terrain, the bracelet glowing faintly on Marcus's wrist, guiding him. They paused often, watching the landscape, noting any movement, and learning from the subtle cues of the alien environment. Marcus realized that the girls' knowledge of nature was invaluable. Their understanding of patterns, weather, and terrain made the journey safer. He respected their insight, and they, in turn, respected his experience. By midday, they reached a clearing near a small stream. The water sparkled under the twin suns, and alien plants lined the banks. Marcus knelt, testing the depth of the stream and the strength of the current. The girls followed his lead, their trust evident in their every step. As they rested, Marcus looked at the bracelet again. It was more than a gift. It symbolized the bond between human and culture, courage and trust, survival and respect. It reminded him that heroism was not only about saving lives, it was about honoring them, understanding them, and learning from them. By evening, they reached a vantage point overlooking the canyon where the storm had begun. The red rocks glowed in the last light of the twin suns, and the sky was painted with shades of orange and purple. Marcus knew the challenges were far from over, but the bond formed between him and the girls gave him confidence. Together, they could face what the universe sent their way. As they made camp for the night, Leela and Ayani prepared a small meal. Marcus watched, feeling a profound respect for their resilience. The girls' gratitude was not passive, it was active, expressed in wisdom, guidance, and shared knowledge. Marcus understood then that heroism was not measured only by action, but also by connection. The universe might be vast and dangerous, but human courage, empathy, and understanding could make even the most hostile worlds feel like home. And so, as the twin moons rose over the canyon, Marcus sat beside the fire, the bracelet glowing faintly, and felt a quiet but unshakable sense of purpose. The storm had passed, but its lessons and the girls' trust would guide him in ways he had yet to discover. The following morning, the canyon lay in a quiet tension. A faint mist clung to the rocks, and the twin suns rose slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across the red landscape. Marcus Rain stood at the edge of the outpost, his eyes scanning the distant cliffs for any sign of danger. The storm had passed, but the universe rarely allowed moments of true calm. Leela and Ayani, now more comfortable with Marcus, moved with quiet confidence beside him. The bracelet on Marcus's wrist pulsed softly, a reminder of the trust and bond shared between them. He had grown accustomed to its warmth, but he sensed it was more than decoration, it was a guide. Its faint glow seemed to respond to subtle changes in the environment. almost as if warning him of what lay ahead. "Are we far from the canyon where the storm hit?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice low. Leela shook her head. "No, not far. The path we must take is safe, but we must move carefully. The storm awakened things in the canyon, creatures that now hunt more boldly." Marcus nodded, tightening his cloak. He had learned that Leela's warnings were never empty. The Apache girls had an instinctive understanding of nature, even on this alien world, and he had come to respect it. As they made their way down the rocky trail, the wind shifted slightly, carrying a strange scent. Marcus paused, crouching low to the ground. He could hear the faint rustle of movement, a subtle, almost imperceptible sound, but one that spoke volumes to him. Something was following them. "Stay close," Marcus whispered to the girls, placing a protective hand near their shoulders. "I think we have company." The girls nodded silently, trusting his judgment. Marcus scanned the cliffs above and below the path. At first, he saw nothing, but then a shadow moved across the rocks, large, four-legged, with thick, armored hides. Alien predators, clearly disturbed by the storm, were drawn to the trail by the scent of humans. Marcus recognized the look in their glowing eyes. These creatures were intelligent hunters, calculating and dangerous. He led the girls into a small alcove beside the trail, partially hidden by jagged rocks. The predators paused, sniffing the air, their claws scraping against stone. Marcus held his breath, feeling the bracelet's warmth intensify. It was subtle, but he interpreted it as a signal, a warning, a reminder that danger was near. For several tense minutes, they waited, barely breathing. Then, slowly, the predators moved along the path, deciding not to confront them directly for now. Marcus exhaled quietly. "That was close," he murmured, glancing at the girls. "But we're not safe yet. We need to move." They continued along the trail, stepping carefully over loose stones and narrow ledges. Marcus taught the girls how to watch for subtle signs of danger tracks, scuff marks on rocks, and even changes in the wind's movement. Leela and Ayani absorbed the lessons quickly, their sharp eyes scanning the environment constantly. Marcus realized that courage alone was not enough to survive on Ares 7. Strategy, knowledge, and quick thinking were equally important. By midday, they reached a plateau overlooking a wide canyon. From this vantage point, Marcus could see the path ahead. It was narrow and winding, with cliffs that dropped sharply on either side. The bracelet glowed a little stronger now, a steady pulse that Marcus found strangely reassuring. He sensed that it was reacting to something in the canyon below, a presence, a threat, or perhaps a guide toward safety. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed from the canyon floor. Marcus's heart raced. He squatted beside the girls, signaling them to stay low. In the shadows below, a pack of alien predators had gathered, larger than any he had seen before. Their armored bodies gleamed in the sunlight, and their eyes burned with a predatory intelligence. "They are hunting," Marcus whispered, "and we are in their path." Leela's hands gripped his arm. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice steady but tense. "We have to distract them," Marcus replied, scanning the environment for options. He spotted a loose pile of rocks near the edge of the plateau. If thrown correctly, they could create noise and draw the predators' attention. But it would be risky. One misstep and the girls could fall. Marcus motioned for the girls to stay back while he carefully rolled a few large rocks down the cliff's edge. The predators' heads snapped up at the sound, and for a moment, Marcus thought it had worked. But then the creatures turned their attention toward them. Realizing the sound was a trick, they began climbing the canyon walls, their claws scraping against rock, moving faster than Marcus had imagined possible. "Run," he shouted, grabbing Leela and Ayani by the hands. They sprinted along the narrow path, the wind whipping past their faces. Marcus led them with precision, navigating the treacherous cliffs, his muscles burning with effort. The bracelet pulsed warmly, almost as if urging him to keep moving, to trust his instincts. The predators followed, their roars echoing through the canyon. Marcus glanced over his shoulder and saw that the girls were keeping pace, their fear tempered by the trust they had in him. He realized that this trust was their greatest strength. Humans often relied on ingenuity and courage, but trust amplified those qualities, making survival possible even in the face of overwhelming danger. Reaching a narrow crevice in the canyon wall, Marcus dove inside with the girls. The predators skidded to a stop at the entrance, their glowing eyes scanning for movement. Marcus pressed the girls close, holding his breath. The bracelet on his wrist pulsed more strongly, and he noticed a faint shimmer of energy spreading from it. It created a small protective field around them, just enough to obscure their presence. After what felt like an eternity, the predators moved on, frustrated by the sudden disappearance of their prey. Marcus exhaled quietly, feeling the warmth of relief flood his chest. "That was too close," he murmured. "But we're safe for now." Leela and Ayani clung to him, their trust unwavering. Marcus looked at them and felt a surge of admiration. These girls had endured the storm, the dangerous cliffs, and now a pack of predators, and yet they remained resilient. Their courage inspired him, and he knew that human ingenuity and bravery could be strengthened by the bonds they formed with others. As they moved deeper into the crevice, Marcus reflected on the bracelet. It was more than a gift, it was a guide, a protector, and a reminder of the bond between cultures. He realized that survival was not just about avoiding danger, it was about learning from others, sharing knowledge, and creating connections that transcended fear. By late afternoon, they reached a small plateau overlooking a narrow stream. The water sparkled under the twin suns, and the canyon's alien flora provided a brief sense of safety. Marcus knelt, examining the path ahead. The predators were still somewhere in the canyon, but the terrain offered opportunities for clever strategy. He showed the girls how to move quietly, how to read the environment for signs of danger, and how to use the natural cover to their advantage. Layla and Ayani followed closely, absorbing every instruction. Marcus realized that courage alone was not enough on Ares 7. Intelligence, observation, and adaptability were equally important. That evening, they made camp near the stream. Marcus gathered firewood from the alien trees and started a small fire. The bracelet's glow cast a soft light, illuminating their faces. Leela and Ayani prepared a simple meal, their movements calm and deliberate. Marcus watched them, feeling a deep respect for their resilience and knowledge. "Marcus," Leela said quietly, handing him a cup of water. "Your courage saved us. But the bracelet, it also helps. It is our way of sharing strength, just as you shared yours." Marcus smiled, accepting the cup. "It's more than just a bracelet," he said. "It's a reminder that survival isn't just about strength. It's about trust, courage, and learning from each other." Ayani nodded, her small hand resting on his arm. "We trust you," she said softly. "And you trust us. That is what makes us strong together." Marcus felt a deep sense of pride. Humans were known for bravery, ingenuity, and resilience. But the true measure of strength, he realized, was connection. Trust and understanding amplified courage, creating bonds that could withstand even the most dangerous challenges. As the twin moons rose over the canyon, Marcus sat by the fire, the bracelet pulsing softly on his wrist. The predators were still out there, waiting, but he felt ready. The storm, the dangers, and the challenges had tested them all, but humans could endure. Their courage, resourcefulness, and empathy made them capable of surviving anything the universe threw at them. And Marcus knew, deep in his heart, that this was only the beginning. The bracelet's energy, the girls' trust, and the lessons of the canyon would guide him through challenges far greater than he had yet faced. Together, they would confront whatever came next, and human courage would shine brighter than any danger. The twin moons of Ares 7 hung low over the canyon, casting silver light across the jagged rocks. Marcus Rains, Layla, and Ayani crouched behind a boulder, listening to the soft scuff of alien claws on the stone. The predators were close. Too close. Marcus could hear their low growls echoing through the canyon walls, and his heart pounded. The girls were tense but silent, trusting him completely. Marcus checked the bracelet on his wrist. Its faint pulse seemed to respond to the creature's proximity. He had come to rely on it, not as a tool of magic or luck, but as a subtle guide, an early warning. A measure of danger. The energy radiating from it gave him a strange confidence. He had survived storms, cliffs, and a pack of predators so far, but now, in this confined canyon, there would be no easy escape. "We have to act," Marcus whispered. "If they corner us, there's no way out. We need to create a diversion." Leela's eyes widened, but she nodded. "We will follow your lead," she said. Ayani gripped her sister's hand tightly, and Marcus could see the determination in both their faces. They were brave, but he knew that courage alone would not save them here. Strategy was everything. Marcus scanned the canyon. There was a narrow ledge above the predator's current path. If they could get there, the creatures would have difficulty following, but reaching it would require precision. One misstep, and they could fall into the canyon below. "Follow me exactly," Marcus whispered. "Step where I step. Stay close, and keep low." They moved cautiously, the bracelet glowing faintly as if warning of every loose rock and uneven surface. Marcus led the girls along the edge of the canyon, using the boulder as cover. The predators' growls grew louder as they sensed movement. But Marcus used every trick he had learned in his years as an explorer. He slowed his breathing, adjusted their path, and used the sound of loose stones to distract the creatures. When they reached the narrow ledge, Marcus looked at the bracelet again. Its warmth had grown stronger. An idea formed in his mind. An action that was risky, but might buy them the time they needed. He knelt beside a small, sharp rock and tapped the bracelet against it. The energy seemed to hum in response. Spreading along the edge of the ledge, the metal glinted, and a faint shield-like shimmer appeared around them. Subtle, but noticeable. "Stay close," Marcus whispered. "This might hurt your eyes a little." The girls nodded. Marcus activated the bracelet fully, focusing his energy. A wave of protective light radiated outward, just enough to create a temporary barrier. The predators hissed and recoiled at the sudden glow, confused and startled. Marcus used this moment to move them forward, leading the girls across the narrow ledge toward the next cliff. One predator tried to leap, but the shimmer blocked its path. Marcus could see it, hesitate, uncertain. He didn't waste a second. "Keep moving," he urged, grabbing the girls' hands and pulling them along. The ledge ended at a small plateau, and Marcus ushered them behind a large boulder. For a moment, they were safe. The predators circled below, growling and scratching at rocks, trying to figure out the humans' location. Marcus's pulse raced, but he remained calm. "We're not out of danger yet," he said, "but we have an advantage. If we act smart, we can get through this." Leela looked at him, her eyes wide but steady. "What do we do?" Marcus pointed to a narrow crevice above them. "We climb," he said. "It's steep, but we can make it. They can't follow us there easily." The climb was dangerous. The rock was sharp and uneven, and Marcus had to guide the girls step by step. He used every ounce of his strength, his hands and feet finding purchase where it seemed impossible. The bracelet pulsed strongly now, almost as if giving him extra focus and balance. Leela and Ayani followed precisely, their trust in Marcus unwavering. Halfway up, one predator found a foothold and started climbing after them. Marcus froze, assessing the risk. He realized he could not outrun it. They needed a plan that used the environment to their advantage. Looking around, he spotted a series of loose stones higher up. If dropped carefully, they could create a landslide, blocking the predator's path temporarily. "Stay here," Marcus whispered, testing the first stone. He let it tumble down. The predator hissed and leapt back, startled. Marcus repeated the process with precision, timing each stone perfectly. Soon, the predator was trapped by the falling rocks, giving Marcus and the girls the time to climb the final stretch to safety. They reached the top of the crevice, panting but relieved. The plateau above offered a clear view of the canyon below. Marcus allowed himself a moment to admire the view, the jagged cliffs, the twisting path of the canyon floor, and the distant outpost glowing in the twilight. But he knew the danger was far from over. "We need to move quickly," Marcus said, glancing at the bracelet. "It will guide us toward the safest path. Trust it, and trust me." The girls nodded, gripping his hands tightly as they descended carefully toward a small grove of alien trees. Marcus taught them how to use the trees as cover, moving quietly and observing the predator's movements. The bracelet pulsed again, alerting him to unseen dangers and unstable terrain. Suddenly, one of the predators leapt from the canyon edge, aiming straight for them. Marcus acted instinctively. He tapped the bracelet against his chest, focusing its energy. A shield of light flared outward, just enough to push the predator back without harming it. The creature recoiled, confused and frustrated, giving Marcus and the girls the chance to escape further into the grove. Once safe, Marcus knelt beside the girls, checking for injuries. None, thankfully. Layla looked at him with admiration and gratitude. "You saved us again," she said softly. Marcus shook his head. "No, we saved ourselves together. The bracelet helped. Yes, but your courage and trust made the difference. Humans survive not just by strength or tools, but by thinking, learning, and trusting one another." Ayani hugged Marcus's arm tightly. "I'm glad we're with you," she whispered. "You make us feel safe." Marcus felt a surge of pride. He had faced storms, predators, and impossible cliffs. But it was moments like these when trust, courage, and ingenuity combined that defined humanity. Humans were clever, brave, and capable of overcoming challenges that seemed insurmountable. And now, with the bracelet and the girls' trust, they had created a bond that would carry them through even greater dangers ahead. Night fell, and the trio set up a small camp under the alien trees. The bracelet glowed faintly in the moonlight, a comforting reminder of safety and connection. Marcus allowed the girls to rest first, keeping watch for any predators still roaming the canyon. He reflected on the day's events. The predators had been clever and dangerous, but humans had used intelligence, strategy, and empathy to survive. Strength alone would not have been enough. By the time the twin moons reached their highest point, Marcus felt a quiet confidence. The canyon was still dangerous, but he had learned to trust the bracelet, the girls, and his own instincts. Humans thrived not just by facing danger, but by understanding it, learning from it, and using every tool at their disposal, including courage, ingenuity, and the bonds they formed with others. Before sleep, Marcus knelt by the fire, examining the bracelet. He realized its energy was connected not just to the land, but to the trust between them. It was a symbol of courage, protection, and connection, something far greater than mere survival. The storm and predators had tested him, but the bracelet, the girl's trust, and human ingenuity had prevailed. Marcus whispered quietly, almost to himself. "We've made it this far. Tomorrow, we face whatever comes next, and we will face it together." Layla and Ayani, sensing his resolve, nodded in agreement. The dangers of the canyon were real, but so was the bond between them. Human courage, intelligence, and empathy had carried them through the worst, and it would continue to do so. As the fire flickered and the canyon fell silent under the twin moons, Marcus knew that the challenges ahead would be greater than anything they had faced so far. But he also knew that humans could rise to meet them through trust, courage, ingenuity, and the connections that made them truly strong. And somewhere deep in the energy of the bracelet, Marcus sensed that this bond, the bond of survival, trust, and shared courage, was only the beginning of a story far larger than any of them could yet imagine. The dawn on Aries 7 broke with a soft golden glow, spilling across the jagged canyon walls and painting the rocks in shades of pink and orange. Marcus Raines, Layla, and Ayani had survived the storm, the cliffs, and the alien predators. Now, for the first time in days, there was a sense of calm, though Marcus knew the universe was never truly calm. The trio sat at the edge of a small plateau, overlooking the canyon where danger had lurked so recently. The bracelet on Marcus's wrist pulsed faintly in the morning light. Its energy had been their guide, protector, and subtle warning system, but Marcus now understood that its true power was something deeper. It was more than energy or technology. It was a symbol of trust, courage, and connection. Leela reached over and touched Marcus's arm. "Marcus," she said softly, "we have walked through danger together. You saved our lives. Yes. But more than that, you showed respect. You listened to us. You trusted us." Marcus looked at her, feeling the weight of her words. I didn't do it for recognition," he replied. "I did it because it was the right thing. But you're right. Trust and respect, they matter as much as courage. They give strength, even in impossible situations." Ayani, sitting beside her sister, nodded. "That is why we gave you the bracelet. Not to protect you from danger alone, but to show that we trust you. And because you trusted us, we were able to survive together." Marcus traced the bracelet with his fingers, feeling its gentle warmth. He realized it was more than a tool, it was a bond, a living reminder of humanity's ability to inspire loyalty and admiration, even across species or cultures. He thought back to the storm, to the predators, and to the countless small decisions that had kept them alive. Humans were resilient not because they were the strongest, but because they could think, feel, and connect. "I understand now," Marcus said. "The bracelet. It's a reminder that courage alone isn't enough. Wisdom, empathy, and trust are just as important. Humans survive because they care for each other, and for those who cannot protect themselves." Leela smiled faintly. "Yes, that is the greatest gift of all. Life is dangerous, and courage is necessary, but trust and connection give it meaning." They spent the morning preparing to return to the main settlement. Marcus carried the small pouch of seeds Leela had given him, planning to plant them wherever he went. A symbol of life, trust, and the connection they had shared. The journey back was still treacherous, but they moved with confidence, having learned to read the land, the air, and the subtle cues of danger. As they walked, Marcus reflected on what had happened. Each challenge had tested them, but each had also revealed the strength of human ingenuity and empathy. Humans were capable of adapting, learning, and surviving in environments that were hostile, alien, and unpredictable. And, as the bracelet reminded him, humans could also form bonds that transcended fear and danger. When they reached a narrow bridge of stone spanning a deep chasm, Marcus paused. He glanced down at the raging river below, then at the bracelet. Its warmth seemed to encourage him, reminding him to remain calm and focused. Step by step, they crossed, each movement precise, each breath measured. The girls followed his lead without hesitation, their trust complete. Halfway across, a sudden tremor shook the stone bridge. Marcus's heart leapt. He knew one misstep could be fatal. The bracelet pulsed strongly, and instinctively he adjusted their positions, keeping their weight balanced. The girls followed his instructions perfectly, and together, they crossed safely. Marcus exhaled, feeling the bracelet's energy calm him once more. Once on solid ground, Marcus allowed himself a brief moment to smile. "We did it," he said quietly. "All of us." Leela and Ayani beamed at him. "Yes," Leela replied, "because we trusted each other." The rest of the journey was uneventful, but every step reinforced Marcus's understanding of humanity. Humans were clever, brave, and capable of incredible acts of kindness, but their greatest strength lay in their ability to form bonds, trust, empathy, and respect for one another, and for the world around them. By late afternoon, they finally reached the human settlement. Colonists bustled about, preparing for evening, but they paused as Marcus led the girls inside. Word had already spread about the rescue. Marcus, however, didn't seek praise. He quietly handed the bracelet to Leela and Ayani for inspection, allowing them to feel its energy and see its gentle glow. Layla held it carefully, examining the fine threads and subtle light. "It carries the energy of trust," she said softly. It helped us survive, but it also taught us. You, Marcus, have shown us what humanity can do: courage, wisdom, and care. Marcus felt a lump in his throat. And you've taught me as well. That even in danger, understanding and empathy can guide us further than courage alone. The girl's small eyes sparkled with pride and gratitude. Marcus realized then that the gift of the bracelet, while practical, had also created a deeper connection. It was a reminder that heroism was not measured by strength or daring alone, but by the bonds humans formed and the lives they touched. Over the next few days, Marcus worked alongside the girls in the settlement. They shared knowledge of the canyon, the storms, and the alien creatures, teaching the settlers how to navigate and survive. Marcus realized that heroism was also about sharing experience, teaching others, and helping communities thrive. One evening, Marcus sat by the fire with Leela and Ayani. The twin moons rose over the canyon, their silver light illuminating the outpost. "Marcus," Leela said quietly, "we want you to know. Your actions meant more than saving our lives. They showed us that humans can be brave, clever, and kind, and that even when danger is great, trust and understanding can overcome it." Marcus smiled. "I only did what anyone would do," he said. "But I understand now our courage matters more when it is guided by care and connection. That is what makes humans strong." Ayani nodded, resting her small hand on Marcus's arm. "And the bracelet will remind us of that. Not just for today, but for the future. You will carry it, and so will we. In our hearts." Marcus looked down at the bracelet on his wrist, feeling its warmth pulse gently. It was a symbol of the journey they had shared, of the courage, trust, and wisdom that had kept them alive. But more than that, it was a symbol of humanity itself, the ability to face danger, to connect with others, and to rise above fear with courage and empathy. The night grew quiet, and Marcus reflected on the events of the past days. The storm, the cliffs, the predators, they had all tested them. Yet humans had prevailed. Not because they were the strongest creatures on Ares 7, but because they were clever, resourceful, and compassionate. Their ability to adapt, to trust, and to act with integrity had made survival possible and had inspired loyalty and respect. As the settlement settled into night, Marcus felt a deep sense of peace. He had saved lives. Yes, but he had also learned the true meaning of heroism. It was not the act of saving alone. It was the courage to face danger, the wisdom to make the right choices, and the ability to form bonds that carried strength beyond physical ability. The bracelet pulsed softly in the moonlight, a reminder that human courage was more than survival. It was connection, empathy, and honor. Marcus knew that no matter what challenges awaited in the universe, humans could rise to meet them. And in that moment, he realized that the greatest adventures were not only about survival, but about the hearts, minds, and bonds that made humans remarkable. The next morning, Marcus, Leela, and Ayani planted the seeds Leela had given him near the settlement. As the small plants took root in the alien soil, Marcus felt a profound sense of hope. Life, courage, trust, and connection all were growing together. Just like the plants, humans could survive, adapt, and thrive. Not alone, but together. And somewhere deep in the quiet of the canyon, Marcus knew that their journey was only one story among countless others. Yet, it carried a truth that would endure. Human courage, ingenuity, and empathy could shine brightly, even in the harshest corners of the universe. The bracelet, the girls, and the canyon had taught him that heroism was not measured by power alone, but by the hearts and minds that chose to act with wisdom, courage, and care. Marcus looked at Leela and Ayani, their eyes bright with hope and gratitude. "We made it," he said softly. "And together, we'll face whatever comes next." The girls smiled, and the bracelet on his wrist pulsed warmly, a gentle reminder of all they had endured, all they had learned, and all they could accomplish. Human courage had prevailed, and the bonds they shared had made it stronger than any threat, any storm, or any challenge in the universe. In that quiet moment, Marcus understood the full meaning of the gift. Heroism was not just an act, it was a way of living, and humanity, with all its courage, intelligence, and heart, would continue to shine wherever the stars took them.